I was not a very studious boy, but I used to score on my exams really well.
Hello and welcome to Up Close and Personal Season 2 here at InvokED Studios, where we dive deep into the heart of leadership, collective action and education equity. I am your host, Alron Chittadam. Our guest today is Mr. Sudarshan Poondi, postgraduate from IRMA with 3 decades in financial advisory, championing Alliance model to design and scale sustainable development programs, where he ensures to improve life of vulnerable sections of Indian society. Welcome, Mr. Sudarshan, to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Happy to be here.
Yeah, you know, we were chit-chatting outside, and from what I understood, from what I could gauge, you're a very curious person, and I think you're the first guest today who were to ask, what are these bowls? So let me take off your curiosity one by one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll start with the bowls first. Basically, your folks here at InvokED, the speakers, the guests, everyone, you know, they have questions for our guest today. So what I would like you to do is, I would like you to take any one random chit from the bowl.
Okay.
You will see they have certain labels. Okay. And I would like to read it out loud and answer the question to our audience.
I have to read it out
Yes.
loud. Okay, I'm taking offbeat and curious.
Yes.
Because you said curious, so I want to live by that.
Yeah.
What is one unusual skill or talent you have that most people don't know about? Brains? So I think I actually observe more than what I disclose. People think I don't observe much because I generally am able to provide inputs, insights quickly enough. So people think he is not observant. He is very logical,
Yeah.
but he is not necessarily observant. But sometimes I play an observer role,
Right.
and I have this very sneaky habit of being an observer on myself. So, like as we speak now, sometimes I imagine I'm there and I'm hearing both of us.
Do you ever see, I mean, these are just random questions because I generally
Not at all.
find you very curious as a person. Do you see yourself writing a biography of your entire journey?
No, I don't think my life has been that interesting to write a biography.
You're being humble.
No, I don't. Frankly, I don't think it's not something which I'd probably write, but about something else, not necessarily about myself.
What would you write about?
I like the style in which in those days R.K. Narayan used to cover India, right? The way he covered with a very pragmatic, shades of grey, pragmatic, matter-of-fact manner. He never delivered judgments on anything. He never cast evil and good.
Right.
It was a very pragmatic way of this is the situation. And that was all this was about 50 odd years ago,
Right.
50 to 40 years ago.
Right.
India has changed, but the shades of grey still remain.
Right. Yeah.
Right? The humor that we can derive out of it still remains.
Right.
So probably some small sketches. It's in my mind. I haven't yet formulated my
Fair.
thoughts fully.
No, you remind me of this one book. It's called Bangalore Then and Now. I can't remember the illustrator's
I'm
name.
a part of Bangalore. Then you are a part of Bangalore now. Let us go ahead.
So the illustrator has hand-drawn the journey of Bangalore. You know, the changing phases, like how Church Street used to look, 30 years back versus now, and that journey. And I found the book very, very interesting. Just skim through and everything. Tell me, how was your schooling experience? Were you a backbencher, first bencher? What was your experience in school?
So, good question. Actually, I was a kind of an unusual backbencher. I always used to sit at the back, primarily first because I was the tallest person in my classroom.
Right.
And in those days, 6-footers were much rarer than today.
Oh,
That era, Indians, there were not too many 6-footers. So
Yeah.
I was by far the tallest, and therefore, by nature, had to go towards the back of the line any point in time. But even otherwise, I was a backbencher in terms of my, can I say, the intensity with which I did my schooling. I was not a very studious boy, but I used to score on my exams really well. So I had this probably a natural gift for mathematics.
right.
So that helped a bit. But I would not consider myself studious or an obedient boy, but I was definitely in the top rankers most times.
Which goes on to your character, how you've always been a silent king. You have been a backbencher, everyone thinks, oh, he's one of us, but then like, wait, he's scoring top marks. It's like the character Rancho from 3 Idiots, right?
Yeah, but not as innovative as he was portrayed to be.
You're generally being very humble. But, was it a teacher who had a lasting impact on your life?
Yes.
If you could talk about him or her?
I'm still in touch with her.
How nice.
So I came from somewhat of a modest background, and I was a very diffident individual who was, as I said, observant, who could grasp things and reasonably good at academics, but I was very diffident and very anxious about anything that I do.
Right.
So she, for some reason, took me under her wing, and she made me participate in debates, elocutions, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So brought me to the stage in a sense, yeah, and that helped me overcome some bit of the shyness that I had. I also, while I was, as I said, a good student, I had no width of reading, and as I said, because we came from somewhat of a modest background, we didn't have the means to have that width of reading. She forced me to read what was then called library book being something outside the curriculum.
Right.
The school ran a small library,
right.
and she forced me to start reading books outside my curriculum.
Right.
And that's the first time I read. So I started my reading much later than other students. But then I kind of ran through the entire library very, very rapidly.
Right.
So much so that I had started reading James Hadley Chase, which was then taboo novels by the time I was 14. And she said, I would never have introduced you to reading had I known that this is where you would end up.
But, when we talk about journeys, right? You finished Redma and you're working and then you joined Deloitte. 30 years at Deloitte. What made you stick to one organization that entire period for 3 decades, working, obviously moving to CSR? Tell me about that. Tell me, what does it take for you, for someone who's curious, someone who wants to work, must probably see every kind of possible work out there. What made you stick to one organization?
Yeah. So, nobody else would give me a job. That was one point, I presume. But I think, honestly speaking, there were 3-4 things which attracted me to the firm, and I put it down, rationalized it thereafter into a template. But these were probably things that were going on in the subconscious. And now I'm able to therefore articulate it better, and I'm able to convey it to the people who used to report to me. Now, of course, I have a very small team. But when I was in business, I had a very large team. So every year, I did it subconsciously, I think, because I got it templated well. There are 3 things which you need to look at. Is the job adding to my CV?
Right.
Is it adding value to my CV? Am I learning something?
Right.
Am I better than what I was earlier? Right? Have I learned something new? Have I learned to do the same thing better? So you need to look at how you have developed as a professional. That's the first thing. The second is the compensation, financial compensation, commensurate with what I am delivering.
Right.
Right? Am I earning a fair outcome, fair remuneration for what I'm delivering? And the third is cultural. Is the organization oriented in its ethos? Is it oriented towards integrity? Is it oriented towards a long-term vision? Is there a camaraderie outside? All of you are people whom you like to work with.
Yeah.
You don't go to office with the idea, oh shucks, why am I going to office today?
Yeah.
So are there people whom you can interact with, not necessarily as a fellow employee or a fellow partner, but as an individual? Would you engage with them outside the office?
Correct.
That's the first. So I put these at 3 buckets.
Right.
One is your professional value addition.
Right.
Second is your compensation.
Yeah.
And the third is the cultural compatibility. These 3 buckets, if I take, and then I do a combination to say, every year I do this assessment, as I said, I did it subconsciously. I don't think I did it consciously, but I told all my team, you must do it. And the day you feel that there is something, and you can weight it differently. For someone who comes from a privileged background, maybe financial compensation may not be as important. For someone who comes from a very high need of money, maybe cultural composition may not be as important. It could be, but you can decide what is the weightage that you want to ascribe.
Right.
Provide a score and see whether you are better off than last year.
Right.
So you got to keep making. The moment you say it's falling, then you should look for another organization.
Fair, yeah.
So I keep telling my people, you should always check to see whether you should stay in this organization or not. I mean, it would have been, of course, anathema to Deloitte what I did, but that is fine. That is the way they develop as professionals too.
Tell me, what does scale mean to you? When you talk about, we talk about these, where you're trying to scale sustainable development programs, we're trying to, what works, what doesn't work. Where does the numbers stop and where does the deep impact start? Like, how do you look at scale?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think it's something which I'm not a social engineer, so I don't come from that background. Although I did study IRMA, but I moved on to business, so I don't come from that background where I'll be able to answer it anecdotally or answer it with the wealth of experience that these people have. But I think when we, as at least in Deloitte, the recent last more than 2 years, I've been involved in our corporate initiatives, our corporate responsibility initiatives. I have looked at where we can provide support more for interventions than for assets.
Right.
Right? So if someone is taking up, let us say, instead of supplying, let's say, a dialysis, a kidney machine to a hospital, I would rather provide that to a technology research that is being done by the hospital, which can be significantly scaled and replicated.
Right.
Not that it is undermining the dialysis. There are people who would do it. Let us encourage them to do it. But as Deloitte, we'd like to see things at scale. So therefore, I would rather support an intervention which has, in going back to my earlier avatar, it's like what we call the risk capital, right? It's a burn money. I want to sense this new market. I'm going to burn the cash running that market. I'm creating a new product. I'm going to burn the capital creating that product. It may fail, it may succeed. I don't know, but I want to do that. As Deloitte, what we wanted to do was to provide the risk capital to social initiatives,
right.
And that was a redefinition of the way in which we ran our corporate responsibility once I took over.
Yeah. That's an absolutely fair point. I mean, the idea is to give everybody a chance, and with our Shikshagram model as well, what we're trying to do is, like, we don't want to just impact the end beneficiaries, but also see capacity building of NGOs, and give them the kind of exposure where once you're out of the picture, they are able to sustain, they're 100%. Able to show a presentation, and that's absolutely fair point.
100%.
If I could end on this note, generally I've learned so much from you, and I feel guilty that others are not. If you could give a word of hope of a tomorrow to our youth, to our children who are watching, what would it be?
To your children, to the Shikshagram?
Yeah, anyone, to the audience, if you could just say a word for a hope for tomorrow, what they should be thinking, what would it be?
I'm not that big a leader to give a message of hope. So that's for the big. Anyway, so what I think is important is when you always look at how are we better than yesterday? How am I better than yesterday? How is the world around me better than yesterday? It could be your family, it could be your neighborhood, whatever be it. Is there something each day that we could do? Some small thing. It need not be something at scale, because if everybody does it, it automatically becomes scale.
Right.
So you need not think of interventions at scale. You did not think of saying, am I changing the world? No, you don't have to. You do that, and I keep seeing whether I am doing it myself. Do that one bit today, which you did not do yesterday, to make it better, to make yourself feel better, to make your family, your daughter, I mean, I have my daughter, my dog, they're my life right there. Or to make your family feel better, you make your neighbors, whatever be it. Do that one little thing, just that one little thing every day, and we would be a better place.
How nice. We unfortunately have come to the end of our show, but believe me, if I had any kind of power here, I would just keep this going on for another 15-20 minutes. There's so much more to know about your work, about you as a person, about the message you can give for for the team and for the people there. But unfortunately, we have run out of time. But genuinely, thank you so much for your time. for
Thank you
your
so much.
insights, your stories, and to be fair, your wisdom as well. It's generally been very nice for us. And thank you for our audience for tuning in. Stay connected, keep the dialogue going, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.